Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And thank you especially to Brian Hambley, who's coming to us from Warren County. He is a cancer doctor who decided to run for Secretary of State after he saw the negative impacts of bad districts and poor legislations on his patients' ability to access care. He's committed to ending gerrymandering, which we all are, and he is also committed to making it easier for Ohio citizens to vote, which was, of course, what we would like to see in a Secretary of State. Brian, please take it away. We're so glad to have you with us.
Debbie, thank you, and thanks everyone for the invitation to be with Indivisible Central Ohio. This is great. Uh, what Debbie, what I've done in the past is I can take 8 or 9 minutes to describe why I'm running for this office, and then save most of the time for discussion and question and answer. Does that work for the format you usually use?
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Well, great. It's an honor to be with you. I'm calling from a parking lot in Cleveland in the Jeep, and my name is Brian Hambley. I'm a leukemia doctor in Cincinnati, and I'm running for Secretary of State because I think elections ought to be honest and fair. Now, I do understand that this is not the most common career path for a leukemia doctor, and so I want to describe why my wife Jan and I decided this was a fight we wanted to take on. Jan and I have had a recurring conversation that I know a lot of you have had with loved ones. And it goes something like this. What comes next in Ohio's democracy? And what can all of us do, whether it's an indivisible group in Central Ohio, a county party in Warren County, a candidate? What can we do to make that the best possible future? How do we bring more communities in Ohio up? And how do we let fewer people down? Now I'm reminded in my day job, everybody cares about the health of themselves and their communities. 2 years ago, I had a patient, a young single mother from down near Portsmouth, the rural area of our state, went to her local hospital with a nosebleed, only to be told she had leukemia and she had to come to Cincinnati 2 hours, sirens blaring. And I walked into her room on Cincinnati's leukemia ward. This woman was scared. But she wasn't just scared of the leukemia. She was scared that her new high deductible health plan, this woman had insurance, but a non-union job and a $10,000 out-of-pocket max was going to leave her with co-pays too high to afford Christmas presents for her kids. She was afraid that her insurance was going to deny the chemotherapy she needed because she had many friends where insurance had played this deny, deny, deny game. And she was afraid she'd spend the next 2 years driving back and forth to Cincinnati because all of the local hospitals and clinics had either been closed down or, in her rural area, consolidated. They could have provided at least some of the care she needed. Those were her fears. And this was the afternoon of the day she was diagnosed with leukemia. And I thought to myself, this woman is not describing Democratic fears or Republican fears. She was describing human fears. To this day, I do not know how this woman votes. And when I think of what have our gerrymandered Republican congresspeople in Ohio done to build a more secure future for that woman and the many people with chronic diseases in our state like her, it's nothing. And it was worse than nothing last July when every Republican member of Congress from Ohio voted for a budget. It's going to cut 500,000 Ohioans from their health care. And they structured it so it won't kick in until 2 months after this November's election. That's how proud of it they are. Now, some of you on this call might wonder, what in the world's that got to do with Secretary of State? And I'm going to start by saying what the Secretary of State is supposed to do by the Ohio Constitution. There are three main jobs. Number one, Secretary of State's supposed to draw fair districts when you go to vote for that congressperson. Number two, the Secretary of State is supposed to write honest ballot language when you vote on any constitutional amendment. And number three, the Secretary of State is supposed to make it easy and fair for every Ohio citizen to vote. Did anybody with Indivisible Central Ohio sign or organize petitions for the 2024 anti-gerrymandering petition? Yeah, Debbie's shaking her head. Mike and Janie, yeah. Not surprising. I was active in that in Warren County as well, gathering signatures, and I was organizing nurses and doctors statewide. on the anti-gerrymandering constitutional amendment. I don't have to tell everybody on this call that we have a Secretary of State in Ohio who for the last 7 years has doubled down on gerrymandering, disenfranchising millions of Ohioans. Democrats and Republicans alike get hurt by gerrymandering. We have a Secretary of State who now twice has used dishonest ballot language, of all things, putting his thumb on the scale so that he could get his way, rather than just let Ohio voters get hurt. And we've got a Secretary of State who every he gets makes it a little harder for people to vote, especially people he doesn't think are likely to vote for him. Now, that's what we have. But if having this conversation this afternoon should be about anything, it's got to be about all of us imagining a better Ohio. And I believe we should imagine an Ohio where our districts are drawn not by the politicians who sit in those seats, but by an independent redistricting commission. And I'll say this is not pie in the sky. Conservative states like Idaho do it. More progressive states like Michigan do it. We should do it here in Ohio. It should be priority one for our next Secretary of State. The way we should get there is if we win this race in 2026, we should put an independent commission right back on the ballot in 2027. But because the Secretary of State in Ohio controls ballot language, we should put on fair, clear ballot language. There is good polling from 2024. We will win by 10 to 20 points. I think we should imagine Ohio where when you vote on any constitutional amendment, you can understand in plain English what you're voting on. And let's imagine Ohio where it's easy and fair for every Ohio citizen to vote. So when people ask me, why does a leukemia doctor in Cincinnati want to be Secretary of State? I say issue number one in Ohio for people trying to build a better healthcare system is a broken and gerrymandered democracy that cuts us all off at the knees before we ever get started. I think government's got to be where we do together what none of us can do alone. Build great schools, safe roads, and a healthcare system that I passionately believe ought to be universal, simple, and affordable. Now, there are two Democrats running for Secretary of State, and Democrats in the state of Ohio have an important choice to make. I think this is good because we couldn't be more different people and we couldn't be more different on policy. And I think that's good for Democrats to have a primary where Democratic primary voters are going to get to make a decision. My opponent is an experienced state representative from Columbus, and I know her argument is that we need someone with the most and longest political experience. My argument is that the type of experience matters a lot. You know, Representative Russo made the decision to vote for gerrymandered maps in 2023, and I passionately disagree with that decision. Short-term political gain undercut us when we tried to pass that constitutional amendment in 2024. Second, a key difference between us is that I believe that corporate PAC money is an upstream problem in our democracy. Those corporations try to distort our politics. We've seen it with Citizens United. We see it with First Energy. We see it in Ohio with our corrupt system. I believe Democrats, especially if you're running to be Ohio's chief election officer and in charge of campaign finance, should reject corporate PAC money. And we've made the commitment that we won't take any corporate PAC money the entire campaign because we think that helps us when we're trying to rebuild our democracy. For all of us in Ohio, this is a rebuilding job. There is no Democratic power dynasty to take over. We have not won this race in 20 years since my friend Jennifer Bruner won it in 2006. I've been a part of rebuilding jobs. When I joined the University of Cincinnati as a leukemia doctor in 2020, as a public hospital that serves everybody, we were the worst leukemia program in the nation for survival. And over the last 6 years, we have rebuilt that program with nurses and nurse practitioners, social workers, dedicated to making sure that people in Southern Ohio got a great care and program for their leukemia. 6 years on, we have gone from the very worst program in the country to today in the top 10% of leukemia and bone marrow transplant programs in the nation. And a journalist in Cincinnati, right before I announced my political run, wrote an article that gave me most of the credit for this, which was fantastic timing for politics. But as any of you know, it's not the whole story. It was the nurses who didn't leave in 2020 when it was really no fun to work at our cancer center. The social workers who never let an insurance company denying care stand between a patient and the right chemo for their cancer. It's a $250 million a year organization. We have more than 500 employees. I have learned how to build teams as I've rebuilt that program. There are three key lessons I learned that I want to take into politics. Number one, in any long shot, and a Democrat winning in Ohio is a bit of a long shot, you need a team, not just a person. There is no single person coming to save Ohio Democrats. Number two, in any uphill battle, you need a long-term vision of what you're fighting for when it gets hard. That's why I think we can't just be the party of not Trump. We ran that election. We lost it. We need the next year to be about answering one question for the people of Ohio. What does it look like if for the first time in 20 years, the people of Ohio see fit to give Democrats power? And I think we shouldn't be describing this in what does it look like in Washington? But what does it look like in our public schools, on our roads, in our hospitals? And tell that story. And number three, you need work ethic. That's why I'm calling from a parking lot in the west side of Cleveland. That's why tonight in Sandusky will be our 288th event. There is no replacing work ethic if you're a Democrat trying to win in Ohio. With that, I am going to thank you for having me. My wife, Jana, and I have got a 6 and an 8-year-old. We want a democracy, nearly 250 years old this summer, where our kids and every child in Ohio can inherit a government where they can do together what none of us can do alone. With that, I look forward to any questions or comments you have. Thank you, Debbie, and everyone for the invitation to be here.
Thank you so much, Brian. Really appreciate it. Let's go ahead and if you've got a question, put your hand up or use the little hand option. And while I'm waiting to see a hand, I do have a question, and that is, what is your plan for what to do about the fact that Frank LaRose just sent our voter information to the federal government?
Was just on a call with the former Attorney General Mark Dan, our last Democratic Attorney General, about just this. Unbelievably, Frank LaRose sent the last four digits of every Ohio voter's social security number to the federal government. So yeah, I've heard the Republican line that this is information that's publicly available. That is wrong. It is not publicly available, the last four digits of a social security number. He was not required to send the last four digits of social security number of every Ohio registered voter to the federal government. We know they're going to use this for nefarious processes. There's two things that I think we need to know. One, as Secretary of State, I would not cooperate with the Trump administration. We need someone willing to stand up to Republicans, not someone who's going to cave or compromise with them on any of these issues. Second, I think we need to look seriously at suing Secretary of State Frank LaRose for violating the rights of Ohio citizens to their own data and privacy. I think he stepped over the line here. Those are 2 points about it. I'm glad you brought it up, Debbie.
Thank you. That I was wondering if there was any strategy. That's good news to hear. Thank you very much. Anybody have a question? Oh, oh, that's a clap. Okay, Andre has a question. Andre Rotter.
Okay, I'm interested in how you see your career going forward. Are you going to, if you get elected, will you be a full-time representative, or are you hoping in any way to combine your medical practice with executive career?
Thank you, Andre. I will always have a passion for leukemia and cancer patients. But if I win the Secretary of State race, I will be full-time as Secretary of State and I will not have a clinic anymore. I've gone part-time for this campaign. I think it's the only way to work hard and do the work necessary to win a statewide race. So I just have limited myself this past year to I have a 1 day a week leukemia clinic on Wednesdays in Cincinnati. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we travel throughout the state, trying 2 or 3 events a day. So I'm already part-time and I would be full-time as Secretary of State. That's what Ohio voters do.
Thank you very much. Just a reminder, make sure that you're muted when you're not speaking. Thank you. Mike and Janie, I think somebody's, I'm not sure which one has their hand.
Yeah. Hi, Brian. Thanks for being here, and thanks for the effort to do this. It's courageous. My question is one that I don't know that there's an answer. You know, we have a LaRose as a Secretary of State. We have a Faber as an auditor, a Yost as a AG, a DeWine as a governor. Our congressman is Troy Balderson. We just had a nice rally back in mid-February out in front of his hidden office here in Pickerington. They don't listen, okay? And we all feel this. We all call them. Do you have, outside of voting them out, is there any way that you know that we could possibly change minds or get them to that?
Yeah.
It's shocking to me that they don't listen to the majority of Ohioans. But any thoughts outside of voting them out?
I'll do my best, but you've taken, number one should be voting them out, especially Congressman Balderson, who has, thrown his district under the bus every chance he gets.
Yeah.
Is there a No Kings protest coming up that you all are
Yes.
involved in?
Yeah.
Where is that one going to be, Mike, Jamie, Debbie?
We have one here in Pickerington. And last time we had, for No Kings 2, we had about 1,500 people. We're hoping that we can
Really?
double that. Yeah,
Yeah.
we had 15. We have the four corners of Refugee Road, where Refugee and 256 cross. Those four corners, we have marshals on all four corners. We meet with the local police department. I'm going to meet with them on March 25th with another leader of our local Indivisible. Then we also go after that. Ours is from 1 to 2:30 p.m. I know everybody here probably has. I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
Local No Kings, but we'll go down to the State House at 4 p.m. for that one too. And that last one, No Kings 2, was marvelous. I think we had 13,000 people down there, peaceful. And and I think maybe that's the answer, Brian, is that the court of public opinion is going to change this. People standing up, people that normally don't do this, deciding we got to make ourselves known in a hurry. So go ahead. Yeah, we're going to have one. That's our answer.
Well, and Sydney and Debbie, maybe you all can connect after this. I'd love to know which. I'm speaking in Middletown at one of the No Kings protests on March 28th. But if we can physically get up to that 4 p.m. one at the Capitol, we'll try to make it work.
That is outstanding. Outstanding.
So
they're all over. I mean, just in Central Ohio, there are right now 20 events listed. That's, Central Ohio, meaning the suburbs, as well as downtown. So there are many opportunities, but they've been staggered so that you can go to more than one on that day. So we're hoping that people will choose to do more than one, and that we can have a bigger turnout than we had back in October. So that's sort of, I'm sure there's one. You said that you'll be speaking at one in Middletown, but they're going to be all over the state. So
last fall I went to one in Portsmouth, a town that has been devastated by Republican policies. Now it only has 18,000 people in it. The unions have been undercut there. There were 500 people in Portsmouth, a small town, and the police officer who was assigned to it had never seen a protest in his entire career in Portsmouth that had 500 people at it. And talking with people at that square in Portsmouth, a lot of them had never been to a protest before. So I think not every Republican's watching. I don't think we should get rose-colored glasses about this. But there are a handful of Republicans who are trying to decide, will they vote with their conscience? And what does this look like for election law? The SAVE Act would make it harder nationally for women to register to vote if they chose to change their name when they got married. It passed the House, unfortunately. It's now going to the Senate. The Senate has more than 50 votes to pass it. However, a handful of Republican senators, including McConnell of all people, Susan Collins in Maine, have said they will not vote to blow up the filibuster to pass the SAVE Act. I think Senator Collins, who's looking at a tough reelect race, is looking at these No Kings protests, looking at the anti-Trump energy out there, and is making decisions about how she votes on the SAVE Act and the filibuster that could be critical to protecting our right to vote this year. That's the kind of situation and decision that I think we actually can impact. It's only a handful of people, but I think there's a few that impacts. Priority one, though, has got to be we got to get better people in. That's the long-term solution. Thank you for the question, Mike. Debbie?
I want to say that there is the equivalent of the SAVE Act in Ohio as well, considering legislation there. I can't remember if it's SB 153, I'd have to look it up. But if it's sort of like it could be a backstop so that if the federal government does not pass the SAVE Act, it still could get passed in Ohio. And Teresa Gavarone, I believe, is one of the sponsors. She's pretty good at getting legislation passed, unfortunately. So if you have not already called about that, that is one of the ones to be on your list. It hasn't come up in committee yet, but I'm watching for it, and I will give you an alert if and when it comes up, because we need to fight not only in the federal level, but on the state level for that. Sorry to interrupt there.
That's a great point. As I'm sure you know, Debbie, Senator Gavarone is the reason that we have partisan identifiers behind Supreme Court justices. That was her bill that really made our Supreme Court a partisan hack job.
Looking around for hands.
I have my hand up, so I'm just going to go.
Please do. I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
That's all right. There's also a question in the chat, Debbie. You might want to look at it. It's a good question.
Okay.
My question is how I've worked for Allison on her campaigns in the past. I am desperately wanting her not to win this race. I'm doing everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen. But how are you reaching out to all demographics? Obviously, you're going to get the young because you're young. Most of the things that you post after you've had these meetings tend to be older. How are we getting independents? How are we getting African Americans? How are we bringing in everybody into this race?
Yeah. It's an essential question. And Melissa, thank you for the kind comments. And Sydney, if we have a link, we're actually doing canvassing in Columbus this Saturday because we're trying to do exactly what you're saying. Reach out to people who might not show up to a Zoom or a house party or a county party chicken dinner. There are three things we're doing that we think are essential. One is more than any down ballot campaign for statewide office for Democrats in recent memory, we're going everywhere. So we've been to 71 counties already. Many of them we've been to multiple times. You know, when Sydney and Steph and I get to Sandusky tonight, that'll be our third time in Sandusky during this campaign. And what does this look like and why does it matter? You know, early on in the campaign, we went to a rural county, Carroll County, and I was just trying to get everywhere. The Carroll County Democratic Party invited us. And when I showed up, there were about 80 people at a meet and greet for me. And at that point, nobody had ever heard of this, me, a leukemia doctor in Cincinnati running for Secretary of State. And at that event, I asked, why are all these people here in Carroll County? And what they said was, first, nobody ever responds to our emails. The Carroll County Democratic Party, they email all these candidates. Nobody even takes the time to respond to decline their invitation. And we had a team that responded within 24 hours and said, we will drive to Carroll County. And if you're a Republican in Carroll County, nobody shows up for you either because Republicans take Carroll County for granted. And so what does that lead to? Nobody shows up in Carroll County. We need to be there. We've been there. So that's the rule. Second, young people. In a Democratic primary, being on TikTok doesn't help us at all. But a third of people between 18 and 35 get all of their current events news on TikTok, a single social media app. And I have to confess, Melissa, the first time I heard this, I said, oh man, they shouldn't do that. I have reflected on that comment now. And I recognize that a 22-year-old on TikTok is not going to change how they get news because some Secretary of State candidate says they should, read the New York Times. And so we're on TikTok. We're putting out those videos. We are engaging with people wherever they are, even though we know that is not a demographic that makes up a large amount of primary voters. We are going to rural areas. We are going to where young people get their news and get their information. Third, in terms of the urban turnout problem, Cuyahoga, Franklin, and Hamilton counties, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbus, have each seen a 4 to 7% reduction in voter turnout between 2020 and 2024. If we do not fix that, no Democrat is winning statewide in Ohio. There is not a path forward. I've talked with Sherrod Brown about this. He is aware of the problem. We are taking organizing seriously throughout our state. My campaign manager is headquartered in Cincinnati, and Sydney is our Northeast Ohio regional director. This is much earlier than most down ballot campaigns would have a Northeast Ohio regional director, but we're focused on that problem. We know we have to organize more seriously over a longer period of time. And if we don't get it done in Cuyahoga County, there's no path forward for any of us. That's the 3 ways we're trying to tackle it, but it's a fantastic question.
Thank you. I do have a question that came in the chat. Wondering if you can address how you might be able to work with Amy Acton, particularly coming from a medical background and having similar challenges, and wondering if we can leverage efforts in some sort of a collaboration.
Amy and I get along great. So I see her every week or two now at events because we both announced very early. And for the first 8 months of 2025, we were really the only 2 candidates traveling statewide. And so for a county party dinner, they looking for 2 speakers. It would often be me and Amy. So we've gotten to know each other really well. We actually both decided to start early, travel everywhere. And randomly, we both decided that the best political vehicle in Ohio is a Toledo-made, UAW-made Jeep Wrangler. And that is exactly right. And Amy made that decision before Ramaswamy made the decision to be flying around Ohio in a private jet. And boy, if you contrast Dr. Acton with Ramaswamy, her in a Jeep, tooling around everywhere, and him taking, this is true, a private jet from Columbus to Cleveland over and over again, the contrast is just perfect. I think we also believe that as physicians, if we're telling stories about healthcare, we're winning. Democrats need to be talking about healthcare. And if somebody comes up to me at the end of an event, they want to talk about their sister with breast cancer or their father with leukemia, that's a storyline where we have something to build on. And if you think of what are the Republicans offering those stories, it's nothing. They do not have a message on healthcare. They just want to change the subject. So the more we get people talking about healthcare, it helps us. And so those are takeaways. Acton and I have gotten along great. My wife and I had coffee with her and her husband, Eric, a couple of weeks ago. And we're already talking about, what does this look like through a coordinated campaign? How can we do it better?
Thank you. Anybody else? Just looking for hands up. Okay, Melissa and then Andre.
Oh, I think Melissa just
dropped
put
off.
her hand down.
Sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
Oh, go ahead. Andre.
Okay, I'd like to ask about your view of ranked choice voting. I think that's something that I consider important in order for more voters to be involved in elections and deciding who the candidates should be. I noticed that Bill DeMora, the senator from District 25, actually co-sponsored SB 63 that blocks municipalities from utilizing ranked choice voting. And he must have done it as a sort of personal preference because I think the majority of Democrats, both in the Senate and in the House, voted against that. And I got upset about that to the point that I'm actually running against Bill DeMora for the Democratic Central Committee. So we'll see how that goes. But what do you think one could sort of do to save the possibility for ranked choice voting, or do you agree that it should be prohibited?
I'll get to your question. I do want to frame it just for everybody, just in case anyone on this call is not familiar with the concept. Right now, what we have is a first past the post system where you vote for candidate A, B, or C. What that causes is some people will attack independent candidates or some candidates as being a wasted vote, and it allows people to be hyper partisan and aggressive in their campaigning because all they need to do is beat the other two candidates by a single vote. What ranked choice voting says is if we've got three candidates for council, how about we have people rank them number one, number two, number three? What this would allow is if your favorite candidate is a long shot, you can rank them number one. And if your backup candidate you think has a better chance to win, you rank them number two. And your least favored candidate, you rank them number three. And if indeed your favorite candidate doesn't get more than the second and third candidate, then your vote goes to your second option. It makes us less partisan. It makes it easier for independent candidates and candidates that might not have a lot of corporate money backing them to win elected office. And most importantly, communities that have used ranked choice voting like it. When you ask people in Maine or people in Alaska that use ranked choice voting, do you like it? The answer is more than 65% say yes. To Ohio now. Unfortunately, there were both some Democrats, as you're referencing, and almost all Republicans who tried to push through a bill and, so far have been successful trying to ban ranked choice voting in any municipality. I think that's a bad bill. I would vote against it. There are a few communities in Ohio, like Lakewood, that want to use ranked choice voting in their council races. I see no reason why there should be a state law banning it. The role of the Secretary of State, I think, should be making sure if a community decides to use ranked choice voting, that we work with them to implement it with the voting machines we have. As you probably know, Andre, we've got multiple voting machines in the state of Ohio. Each county picks their own type. So we have 7 or 8 different types of voting machines. Almost all of them, though, can be configured to work with ranked choice voting. And I think this is how the Secretary of State should interact, helping communities that decide to use it to implement it.
By the way, just on note, it is on Governor DeWine's desk. If not already, it's being sent there. So the strategy right now is to contact the governor to say veto it.
And Debbie, am I correct? Governor DeWine still has not made a public comment on his intentions regarding SB 63.
I don't know. I haven't heard one, but it's possible.
Yeah. We're worried he's going to sign it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, I'm looking for another hand. Anybody have another question? Mike.
Brian, have you spoken at any events with your primary candidate, the other primary with Allison? Have you spoken at any events yet together?
Oh,
I mean,
like a debate?
Like a debate, or have you both? I thought I saw up in Knox County that you may have. Did you, or am I?
We did. Yeah. So we just spoke at an event last night in Canton where we both had speeches. That wasn't a debate. We will have our second debate tonight in Sandusky.
Are they
So
streaming
anybody
it?
up for a road trip?
Brian?
I don't think they're streaming it. We have said that we are good with any of it being streamed or filmed. But I don't know if Chair Groovy has decided to stream it or not.
Okay.
Indivisible.
I know in April we'll have one in Columbus, a debate in Columbus.
I think isn't that the Indivisible sponsored one? I think
that's right.
Yeah. So Indivisible Central Ohio is sponsoring one with both candidates.
In Columbus, Debbie, is that what you're saying?
I don't remember exactly where it is, whether it's at the Unitarian Church or where. Julie, Yeah,
It-
Julie has. Okay.
It's at the UU Church, and the plan is to live stream it, but it's not being pitched as a debate. It's being pitched as you get openings. I mean, these are the plans right now. Maybe I shouldn't reveal them to one side rather than the other, but Brian will forgive me, I think. The plan is for opening statements and then a curated list of questions from those submitted in advance. And also, if there's time, from those people who are uh, present, possibly also including Zoom, again curated, because there are some people that can just derail,
Yeah.
one way or the other. So that's my understanding as of this morning of where the planning is right now.
Thanks,
But
Julie.
I was wondering, Mike, you might be the one deft enough to be able to do this. Could you share the map of all the protests that that are in Central Ohio, the No Kings 3 one?
I will look, Julie, here, and if I can, I will. I'll send.
I don't want to take your mind off the
No.
conversation, but I think
No, you're not. And
it will
thanks
help
for the
Brian
answer.
see what kind of activity, what kind of a network has developed
Okay.
across Central Ohio. And I also can say that I'm in Licking County, Brian, and my sense is that you're playing very well in semi-rural and rural areas, both you and Dr. Acton. And that, I think, is huge, because we've said for a long time, if we could just get 5% more of the rural vote, it would make a difference on statewide candidates. And
Thank you for saying, yeah.
well,
Go
thank
ahead,
you
Julia.
for being you, because we've needed good candidates that play well in rural areas. And a lot of people are so focused on the state house and, internal politics that they miss the on the ground reality. And I think,
Go ahead. Sorry.
no.
I was just going to say we had Scott Cleve come here and join us for a Zoom meeting maybe a couple of months ago, and he has launched the poster project. He is out in Nebraska, and his thing is exactly what Julie said. If the rural vote could be just 5% more, that it would change everything. So he's a rural voter himself. His wife is the chair, I believe, of the Democratic Party in Nebraska, and he is just big on going to the rural areas and not neglecting them, which I thought was very helpful. But he's got a whole, it's going to be in your list coming up. It'll say the poster project, and you can click on that link, and you can go down by state, and he's got graphics and whatnot keyed to a particular state. So he's got graphics for Ohio, and I believe the last one was about NIH funding, which Brian, you might want to check out and use because that might be helpful for your campaign.
Yeah. One thing to mention, and Julie, thank you for the comment on rural. I grew up on a small family produce farm. My parents still do farmers markets, and I love being in those communities and areas that they left behind. I don't want to get too much into statistics, but one that I think everybody in Ohio should know is that we currently have the highest farm foreclosure rates in the last 40 years. Since the foreclosure crisis on farms in the 1980s, we have not had this many farms under threat of foreclosure. Boy, if you're a farmer that's decided to vote for Republicans over the last few years, and your home is under foreclosure, that is a time where I don't think we should assume that person's going to vote for the same candidates they've been voting for the last 8 years. They may be willing to hear somebody else different, and they are not hearing a long-term solution for small family farmers. That's a fair number of people in Ohio who either are on those farms or work in industries that are directly related to agriculture, where their jobs depend on it. So it's a group we can't give up on that group. One other thing to mention, I was in Paulding County, and we always review places where we go the week beforehand and where they voted, issues, their local paper. And in Paulding County in 2008, Obama lost, but he lost by 12 points. 8 years later, in 2016, Trump won Paulding County by over 50 points, which means almost half of Paulding County is an Obama '08, Trump 2016 voter. It wasn't that long ago. So to your point, Julie, I think there are some people that remember voting for a Democrat. Not all of them are going to flip, but you don't need all of them. But we have to be there and make the case to have any.
Thank you. Mike, do you have your hand up again, or is that still up? Okay. Anybody else have a question or a comment?
Again, in the chat, there's some conversation. I don't know if they're great. Oh, Susan brought up Morrow County. She might be able to say what the population is, but I was just thinking about that. It's a small county that used to be part of what is now Indivisible Central Ohio. It used to be in the previous decade, before the last couple of redistricting, it used to be part of District 12. And when a retired Bell Lab engineer took a GIS course at Ohio State as a senior citizen. He was able to do it for free, and he did some statistics on Morrow County, and he thinks a few hundred votes there would have meant that a Democrat, Danny O'Connor, would have won the special election in 2018 and been the incumbent for the general election, which might have made all the difference. And we wouldn't be stuck with Troy Balderson. So I don't know whether this was Joe Knapp, and I don't know whether he went back. That was with the preliminary data, and I don't know if he went back. But it's stunning to think about that.
Certainly is. I think a number of us had worked on that campaign way back when, and we're very hopeful. And it was a hard defeat. It was really hard to see that. Yeah, Jackie, just unmute.
I forgot. Hi, everybody. My friend, I have a really good friend, Will, and I'm sorry I can't remember his last name right now, but he has a group called the Back 40, and he's been going around the country talking about the farm communities and the damage that's being done to farm communities. He was an aide at the Ohio State House for a couple of years with my son. And so I know him very well, and he's really great. I don't know if anybody has seen him talking. He's been, on different um, websites and interviews, but he's great. And if you can go on the Back 40 and just check that out, I think he's going to have hip surgery here soon. He's been walking around with a bad hip for about 4 months now. But yeah, so check him out. But he's doing a great job on talking about the impact to the rural communities and to the health issues in the rural communities and the farm communities. So yeah, I don't know if anybody knows that. I
It's
can't
just
remember his last name. I'm sorry.
it's called the Back 40. Is
The
that
Back 40. Yeah.
and F40? So
Uh-huh. Just
okay.
yeah, the Back 40. Yeah. Yeah. So
Are you familiar with that one?
I'm not.
Okay. We'll check it
yeah,
out and we'll include it in the write-up.
yeah.
I'll try to find the website and then get it on there. And Karen Adams has her hand up.
The link, I just put it in the chat. It's Will Westmoreland,
Yes, that's him.
right?
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Thank you. All right. Mystery solved. Okay. Anybody else have a comment or a question?
Okay, I'll ask
There was
another,
something else in the.
another
Oh, yeah,
question.
Andre. Yeah, Andre, go ahead.
I was wondering, what is your view about pre-primary endorsements by the Democratic Party? The state party obviously endorsed Amy Acton and Sherrod Brown, and I agree that they are the most qualified candidates. But is that a wise thing to do rather than wait for the decision of the primary voters? And I'm not sure, whether you're going to ask for an pre-primary endorsement by the party, or whether Alison Russo has. And what is the difference? Not doing endorsements in some races and doing them in others.
I haven't been familiar with the governor Senate races. It makes sense to me, but I've been focused, of course, on the Secretary of State race. The ODP's bylaws now say that they should not do pre-primary endorsements outside of extraordinary circumstances. Um, Representative Russo was making calls trying to get the Ohio Democratic Party to do a pre-primary endorsement in this race. That was not successful. And thankfully, last week, the ODP meeting was held and there was no move towards an endorsement. And so there will not be a pre-primary endorsement in the Secretary of State race. And Allison has now accepted that. And so both of us have made public comments to that, where there will not be a Ohio Democratic Party endorsement. And of course, I support that. And I'll say one more thing. We've got a lot of friends on the executive committee. My phone calls to them the entire last 6 months have been asking for a no endorsement. I didn't ask one person for the ODP to endorse. That it was to vote for a no endorsement so that we could move on to let Ohio Democratic primary voters vote. And in May 5th, this will be really interesting. We have not had a competitive down ballot primary in Ohio for Democrats in a long time. And so I think it's good for our party. This is the time to have this discussion. The issues we're talking about are huge. Allison and I have deep differences on policy. We are not going to, neither of us, I think, is going to personally attack the other one. She's going to attack on experience. And we're going to say that some of the experience she has was wrong decisions. Those are fair arguments for both sides to be making. And I think we can elevate our party if we have this discussion in the right way. And I hope folks on here will consider voting for me in the primary. We think it's going to be very close.
Thank you. I think we have a comment from Linda Rice. Did you have your hand up, Linda? Yeah, go ahead. No?
Sorry, no.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'll go back to Jackie in a second. There was a comment in the chat wondering if there's any chance you would consider any value in talking at a Worthington farmers market. I happen to be living in Worthington and it's a big farmers market. So
I would love to go to the Worthington Farmers Market and just eat some food and walk around, maybe with Debbie, you, and Sherry. I grew up manning stalls at the farmers markets that my parents went to, so it might not be the best venue to talk, but I'd love to go. We'd love to be in Worthington, and maybe now Sydney is a good time to put the team email in the chat. And if Debbie, you or Sherry drop us information and when the market starts, when would be a good time for us to go? We'd love to walk around with you and meet people in Worthington if it's a Saturday market, a Saturday morning. And then Sydney will also drop our website as well as the link to any of our social media if you have those handy, Sydney. Social media has been very important for us because if somebody in Central Ohio shares or comments on a post we put out, it's much more likely someone in your network will see it. Liking it doesn't do much for who sees it, but commenting and sharing, that does a lot for who in your network will see it. And we know that's an essential part of this.
That's good advice. Thank you very much. Okay, we've got three in a row. Jackie was first, and then Melissa, and then Julie. Okay, Jackie.
Hi, I just want to say that for years it was important to have an endorsed candidate because the unions use those to get their membership to elect good Democrats. That was during the Rife era. And so that was a really important thing to have. I was a candidate once. I got the endorsement of the AFL-CIO, but then the Carpenters came in and took that away from me. And it ended up that the Republican candidate who won was found stuffing his pockets with money by the FBI and was actually arrested and was jailed for a number of years. So it endorsements can help, endorsements can hurt, but I'm glad to see that now there's more thought involved in who and how they go about endorsing. So just a
Jackie,
tidbit.
you brought to mind. I'll tell you all a quick Vern Rife story. So Vern Rife was the Speaker of the House for many years as a Democrat from rural Southern Ohio, and when a young Sherrod Brown had just graduated from college, he met with the Mansfield Democratic Party, and nobody was running for a state house seat. And they said, "Well, you can run, but you got to go meet with Vern Rife." And so Sherrod Brown went down to, I think it was Chillicothe is where Vern's home was. And they met. And Sherrod at that point was a bit of a hippie, a little longer hair, 23 years old, I think. But they had a good meeting, and Sherrod's always been super smart. And Sherrod's driving back up to Mansfield. And while he's driving, Vern Rife calls the chair of the Democratic Party in Mansfield and says, "Is this the best we've got?" And thankfully, the chair of the party in Mansfield told Vern Rife, "He's absolutely the best we've got. We've got to support him in this state house race." And Sherrod went on to win that race, and kind of the rest is history. And he's helped our party quite a lot. But thanks for bringing up Vern Rife. I think of that story when I hear it.
Thank you very much. Melissa's next, and then Julie. Melissa Gordon.
Yep. I just wanted to say that Allison has tried to put her stamp on the scale for endorsements in much smaller races that have been, in my opinion, fairly unsavory. That being said, I get every day so many requests for money. Where do I give so that everybody gets a little bit of it?
I think, well, I should say that you can go to our website and we'd be happy to take your money.
You've gotten some of it.
I think I knew that, but we need to be thinking like Republicans have thought strategically. And so we've been very successful fundraising. We've raised $900,000. We have raised more than any down ballot Democrat for this office at this point ever. And we've been very proud of our fundraising success. But when I look at what have Republicans done that we haven't, Republicans think about school boards. They think about redistricting. They think long term about state house races. This is going to be an election where Democrats have opportunities. And so if there's a state Senate candidate maybe running against a Republican who won by 10 or 15 points last cycle, if that's a really good candidate, you go hear that candidate and you think, whoa, they're putting together a team. They're really organizing a grassroots effort. You donate $100 or $50 to a state rep candidate that's working on an uphill race. That means a lot to that candidate. The other group that I think we kind of underfund is whether it's county parties or local Democratic clubs that are really organizing the canvassing, the grassroots efforts, making sure that signs are out. The donations often don't go to those groups, but if you're a part of one and they're doing the work, think about including them in your donations, not just as me and many of you probably do, donating to Sherrod, donating to Amy, though that's important as well. Did that answer your question fairly?
Yep.
Thank you very much. Julie's next.
You mentioned the primary, and I've been thinking about No Kings, March 28th. Primary registration for the primary deadline is coming up right on the heels of that, I think April 6th. And this is they're a very active group in terms of voter engagement, voter registration. And so I've been thinking about the No Kings protest in Newark and what to do about. We know that the League of Women Voters of Licking County has chosen not to be there because they say it's not worth it because they only get one voter registration because these are people that are so engaged, people that show up at the protest. they're engaged in the general election, but many of them are not engaged in the primary. So I think that's a real opportunity where those of us that don't have lots of money can put some effort into how do we convert, how do we make sure people are registered and have the primary. There are several important contests. And it would be also very important to get people to end up voting in a primary as a Democrat, just for all kinds of reasons. So I would just want to put that out to the group, really. I'm not saying anything that probably Brian and Sydney haven't thought of, but we have that coming up.
And I'll say on No Keens, we're asking folks who have our shirts to wear their Care for Ohio shirts. I put a link to if you don't have a shirt, if you come to Canvas on Saturday, everybody who shows up will get a free shirt. But if you're not able to make it in Columbus, I put a link to our store where you could order a shirt. And we're asking people to wear a shirt to No Keens. That's been very successful in the past because it's a lot of people who are engaged.
Thank you. And I just noticed that I got a notice in my email today that Hambly signs are available now. Do you want to tell where they can be purchased or?
Any Yep. In that email is a link to if you reply to it and request one, we can get you one. We have distribution points. Any house party we do, any canvas launch we do, we have yard signs that people can pick up as well. And on our campaign website that Sydney has linked to there, we have a calendar. So if you show up at any campaign event, find Sydney, find me, find one of our volunteers, we can get people yard signs from there. But if neither of those is possible and you drop an email to the account, we can get a yard sign through one of our volunteers.
Great, thank you. Okay, Mike and Janie first, and then Karen Lee.
Brian, I know at the Fairfield Democratic headquarters, Allison spoke at our last meeting, and I'm wondering, would you have any, would you like to? I would be glad to work with you guys, with the chairperson, if you would want to speak at one of their meetings.
We absolutely would. I spoke about a year ago, but it's been a while. And
Okay.
Janie, if the team at Hambly for Ohio email that Sydney put in the chat,
Okay.
whether it's Fairfield County Democrats and Lancaster or any other group, if you drop that team email and email with a suggested date, time, and
Okay.
place, they are scheduled very busy. But if we can physically make it, we will.
Okay.
And on that team email, we will respond to you within 48 hours, whether
Okay.
it works or doesn't work for the suggested
Okay.
times.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you. Karen Lee's up next.
Hi. Two reminders. One for everybody who's going to be going out to anything, if you're passing out brochures or, cards or whatever, to remind people who have family, friends, kids, students, military serving outside the United States that there's a site called votefromabroad.org that they can use to fill out the FPCA, which is covered by the law that guarantees the federal vote. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and Brian will be more interested in, great presentation. I'm really enjoying this. Act Blue went through a problem some months ago where they were getting hit because they were accepting donations from banks located outside the United States that, like my account is in a bank here in Athens, Greece, and I have a Visa card and it's easy to donate up until then. Act Blue hopped on and got some of it sorted out. We're still experiencing some problems from around the world. Some of the other groups, and I think Blue Ohio is one of them, use other donation processors, and they haven't caught up with it yet. And I'm not really sure about the state party, but for whatever influence you have in people who want donations, to kind of check that out too. Like the state party's new rule, Democrats abroad does not endorse until after the primary. But there are individuals like us among membership, and we do follow things, and we recommend to our friends people that have impressed us. And so there might even be some dribbling in before May. So just have it in the back of your mind. Make sure that you're covered so that you can get the support you need from wherever it comes from. That's it, and good luck.
Thank you for that. And I know Sydney will probably have to jaunt over to our next meeting, but Um, Debbie, any questions I missed? This has been just wonderful discussion.
Karen looks like she's got a question.
I have a comment, and this is selfish. Saturdays are very busy for people who do a lot of rallies around Central Ohio, but I would love to canvass for you. So if you ever do canvassing on Sunday, you might be able to get a few more of us because Sundays don't have as many rallies. It's
They're
very selfish.
no, Karen, selfish. You're offered to volunteer. I'll say two things on that. One, we will be doing some Sunday canvassing once we get to April, weather gets a little warmer and people are a little more focused on the primary. But second, for anyone interested in canvassing, not with a standard canvas start, we actually will box up some materials and mail you a sheet for your individual precinct with likely primary voters. And all you have to do to set that up is email the team at Hambly for Ohio email. And then the next week, you'll get a packet mailed to you with a walk list of primary voters and literature to hand out. And I think we include a shirt in that packet too.
Super. I live in Delaware. My
Oh,
friend
great.
2 houses away will do it too. So that's perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep. Email the team account and we'll set it up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know we're hitting the time, and I don't want to keep you any longer than than necessary, although we would love to go on for probably another hour. However, anybody have a last question or comment for the good of the order before we sign off here? Janie.
I just want to say again, Brian, thank you for what you do as a doctor, and thank you for stepping forward. It's crucial that we have people like you stepping forward, and I know that it's quite a sacrifice to do that. So I want to thank you as you're for being a leukemia doctor and everything wonderful you've done there, and thank you for stepping forward.
Amen.
Thanks for that. Thank you for having me. It feels good to be in it right now with all of you.
It was great to have you with us, and we had a lot of good questions that I had that I didn't know about. And thanks to all of you for joining us. Brian and Sydney both really appreciate you coming, and we will be in touch. I will be sending out the list probably Friday evening, and that will include like a wrap up and anything that you want to include in the way of a resource or whatever to say more about your campaign that we haven't already done, please just forward it to me. Maybe have just Sydney just send me an email and let me know what you'd like me to include. And then that will be coming out on Friday. And again, one reminder is that we will not be meeting again until the 26th. And we are actually going to host Allison Russo at that time. So we're giving equal time, and then the folks here can make up their minds. All I can say, judging from all the comments and all the hearts and the thumbs up, is that I think you did very well, Brian. And thank you so much for joining us. Okay, I'm going to stop recording now.
Have a great week. Yep. And Sydney, you'll get Debbie that email, I think.
Yes, thank you so much. All right.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.